Mr. Michael Murray, welcome to the Without Limits podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We just had a great workout and some quick lunch.
That was for you. You nearly killed me.
We'll come on to, you kicked it really well in that workout, and we'll come on to, the level of fitness that you've attained alongside running such a cool business. But before we get into all of this, I always kick off with what Without Limits means to you. So as those words kind of come into your ears, what is it you start to think of?
I think the first thing what comes to my mind is Without Limits is a mindset. As simple as that. I like to try and keep things super simple, and Without Limits is a mindset. Is how far do you want to go, and where are you prepared to go as a person? That's really what Without Limits stands for me. And actually, funny enough, at Frasers Group we have 3 core values, and think without limits is our first value. And the first thing is with it, when we break that down, is just think what you want to do, what you want to stand for, what you want to achieve. And then don't put any limits to attach yourself to that. Just set the goals high and then start breaking them goals down incrementally. Some people like to think big and then break it down into small targets or goals every day. Some people like to start from the ground up and build and don't know actually where they're going, but want to hit incremental targets and let the path lead them. So I think the real thing Without Limits stands for is a mindset.
A lot of people talk about company values being an extension of personal values. Is that thinking without limits something that meant something to you as an individual?
Yeah, you have to set your vision of where you want to be in 5, 10, 15 years' time. And everyone has to have a goal and a North Star of where they want to get to, especially when you're leading a company. At Frasers Group, I lead 30,000 plus people. So you've got to try and make that simple enough for people, and you've got to make the goal big enough, but not scary enough that people don't think it's achievable. So we're really big believers in setting big, audacious goals, and then showing them if we do this, this, and this, we'll get closer and closer to them goals every year. And that's really about thinking without limits. If you start to go, oh, this is not reality, or this isn't a realistic goal, it all starts to break down. You have to have that confidence from the outset that we are going to achieve this. It might take us 10 years, it might take us 15 years, it doesn't matter, because that's where we're going. And this year, on that journey, we're going to achieve this towards that bigger long-term goal. So that's how I break down Without Limits in my mind.
You know, when I sat on that stage with you, when we did the collaboration at Flannels, there was glimmers of this in some of your responses, where I was like, fuck, I know that I'm going to get on with this guy the way you think. And so I'm so excited for this next 60 minutes. Do you mind me asking what the other 2 values are that you peg to thinking without limits? So if that comes first, what then comes next?
The next one is own it. So own the job, own the role, own the result. So don't plaster blame if it goes well. Don't try and take other people's credit. Just own it. So take accountability for all your actions. That's really important to me. So first is think without limits. Firstly, start thinking where we're going. What's the company's vision? How can I help that company? The company, and how that feeds into my job, my leadership strategy, etc. The second one is then own it. So own the job, own the result, own the accountability. And the third one is be relevant. Be relevant to our partners, be relevant to our customers, be relevant to the planet.
Values are such a big part of any company or the great companies, right? Because they create this, they help set the culture, they help tie you into a vision, and you can always manage performance when you bring it back to the values. Mm-hmm. Are those values something that you look at every year? Do you say, right, are we still one operating towards those values, and are they still the right values for our company based on our vision and ambition? Do you see values as standing the test of time in your experience, or is it something that you revisit and that could potentially change?
I changed it twice in the first 2 years of being CEO. So I'm not afraid to change things. I'm not afraid to own it and say, actually, that value, we got that one wrong. We should swap that out. So we used to have don't hesitate as one of our values. We swapped that out and we replaced it with own it, because we thought it was more relevant. We want people to really own the responsibility of every part, what they play within our ecosystem as a business. And we thought that was more meaningful and more transferable to the wider workforce to get behind our ultimate vision. I'm a big believer in nothing's forever, and incrementally keep changing the game. You can have your big vision, and we'll use vision a lot today, but it's all about it's a road like this. It's never a linear equation. Changing the path is always so important. No day is ever the same. No circumstance, no economy is ever the same. So it's never going to be a linear path to the overall vision, what you're trying to achieve.
You speak so passionately about the values, and as the CEO and someone that's such a figurehead in the company, it's only natural, right? How do you bring those values to life for 30,000 people? I'm sure your leadership team, live and breathe them. I'm sure the people are in and around them, those two. But the people on the shop floors, the people on the periphery of the team. How do you bring them to life with those guys?
First of all, clear communication. Everyone's got to be aligned with what we're trying to achieve. And how do you really align people? If it's complicated, it's misleading, it's hard for people to follow, they don't engage. So keeping the goal, the vision, very, very simple, and then breaking that down into simple goals. So we have goal setting every year, 5 KPIs, what every department should focus on. Well, we start with Frasers Group at the top, 5 KPIs with what the business wants to focus on, and then 10 key priorities for the group. And then what we expect is everybody throughout the group, all the heads of departments, the executive team and the departments, to have their own 5 KPIs and 10 priorities, what point towards the North Star of where the group wants to be. And then it cascades down. And then we have quarterly check-ins to make sure people are achieving their 5 KPIs and their top 10 priorities. And it's as simple as that. And making sure that we actually reward people for living their for living our 3 core values. So we'll have Frasers Champions every month where they get double their salary, but they have to embody our values. They have to be recognised by a line manager, the person above them effectively, and they have to be, what's the word? Their names have to be put forward a number of times for them to then get that reward. So we really expect people to shout out if they believe that something is wrong within the business, leapfrog their line manager, write to me on Teams. We're very much open. We want to challenge the business to change. Like I say, we're not afraid of changing direction. As long as it's pointing towards a quicker path to our vision, we're happy to take on feedback from anyone within the team, whether they work in a stock room, the warehouse, or whether they sit in the boardroom with me. We want to constantly be challenged and change, and we encourage people to do that by living our values.
This is such gold, and selfishly, every guest I've sat across, I've always got a couple of bits of nuggets that I want to try and draw from them to put into context with my world at Marchon. But I'm sure people listening to this is, you've built such a massive company, and just to hear that some of those practices are actually things that you can adopt in your own business, no matter whether you've got a small team of 3, 5, 10 people. Just carrying on down that track of values. How do you set the vision? And do you mind me asking, because vision can sometimes be this kind of wishy-washy thing that it might go on the top of a bit of paper. How do you set that vision? And do you mind me asking what it is?
Yeah.
Is that?
So our vision is we're building the planet's most admired and compelling brand ecosystem. So I'll unpack that for you, break that down. What we're effectively looking to do is become a platform for big aspirational global brands to access new consumers where they haven't got a direct relationship themselves. So our job and then our purpose is to elevate the lives of the many with the world's best brands and experiences. So we've talked about gyms today. We're bringing an elevated gym proposition to the regional markets, elevating the lives of many with the world's best experience. In this case, where people come to our Everlast gyms, train what we would take for granted in central London in an elevated experience. It could be opening flannel stores where we sell Gucci, Prada, Moncler in locations what they haven't had access to them brands before. So that's our vision, and our purpose is to elevate the lives of the many with the world's best brands. And it's constantly reiterating what we're trying to do and explaining what we're trying to do to all of our employees, all of our shareholders, and also our brand partners.
So when you set that vision, you're setting it as like this North Star, never going to get there, but it's the ambition, and hopefully that vision sets.
We will get there.
So okay, so when you get there, then what happens?
Then we.
And how do you quantify? Is it a subjective measurement of we're here, or is there a way in which you can go we've got there?
No, I think
because I don't think you're chasing down anyone in that space, right? I see you as being the leaders already, so arguably you're.
Yeah, well, we might get there in our current form, but as you quite rightly said, we'll probably be different by the time we get there, and there'll be a new goal, so it'll evolve as time goes on.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I don't see the vision changing for the next 10 years, and that needs to be constant. You need to consistently reiterate and explain what that vision is, and demonstrate it, and celebrate the wins on that journey. So we did Frasers Festival a few weeks ago, which I believe you came to, and that was all about celebrating the wins. And it's all about reminding people we've done this. I'm not a big believer in saying this is what we're going to do. I'm always a big believer in saying this is what we've done, because actions speak louder than words, and always looking back and saying, we said we was going to do this. We have actually done X, Y, Z. The reason why we did X, Y, and Z is because that contributes to our vision by doing X, Y, and Z, and always bringing it back to simple, tangible results.
We dived into so much good stuff. I want to go back, like I said to you before, I want us to go back to where does this like competitiveness, ambition, drive, you're 2 years younger than me, and I like to think of myself as someone that's got huge drive and ambition, but I'm sat across the table from someone that you can see the passion and fire in your eyes when you talk about this kind of thing. Where does that come from? And talk to me about early influences and where the work ethic is born out of.
I've always been very ambitious from being a kid. I started doing student nights, GCSE results parties. I've always been interested in like culture, bringing people together and making money off the back of it. So I've always had that in my DNA all the way through school and university. Set up an events company. I ended up owning nightclubs and bars at university. Then I went into doing real estate. So I've always strived for better, and it's just always been part of my DNA, really.
Has sport been playing much of a part in any of this?
Yeah, massively. Sport. I've been doing sport since I was 5-6 years old or younger. As far as I can remember, I've always trained pretty much every day, and that constant, tangible improvements, results, challenges, goal setting. I'm a massive believer in goal setting. Now, I think it's so good for the mind in terms of consistency, breaking things down. Whether you're like you trying to do an ultra marathon, or for me recently doing high rocks, this is where I want to go. These are the times I want to get. How am I going to get towards that? And breaking that down. I think everybody should have a goal in their life, and they should have day-to-day consistency which points towards that goal. And achieving them goals makes your overall vision, your overall ambition more, not believable, but more tangible. You start to feel, when you've got more and more little wins in the bank, you constantly believe, okay, we can do this. You might set off on this big scary vision, which you think, how am I ever going to get there? But when the wins start coming in, some days are better than others, it makes it all a lot more, you get the momentum going behind you. And that's what I'm a big believer in, is getting that goal setting and then hitting it with consistent routines, which then provides the wins, celebrate the wins, which then lead on to the overall vision.
We're going to circle back to fitness and in particular your involvement in High Rocks, because you've had some huge successes even recently at the World Championships. Before we do, you've referenced you're the CEO of Frasers Group at 34 years old. How did you get into Frasers Group, and how did you go from joining the company to becoming CEO?
So I joined, I was doing, as I said, when I left university, I had bars, nightclubs, I had an events company doing festivals, etc. So I very tapped into what young consumers wanted. That was what I would say my skill set was. I understood what consumers wanted at a specific moment of time, and I could capitalise on that. I then started investing the money which I made from my events company into real estate, and then I met Mike Ashley, who's the founder and the previous CEO of Frasers Group, or Sports Direct it was called then, and he was my father-in-law. So I started doing real estate for Sports Direct, and the idea was to go and buy stores where Sports Direct could move into. And the reason for that is Sports Direct had smaller stores, and they wanted to upsize into, say, double the size, so they could make the product breathe more, they could do better visual merchandising, better marketing in store. And I started on that path, buying physical real estate for the new stores. And then as I got more and more into it, I then started speaking to the brands, taking their feedback. Oh, we don't like this customer experience. Why don't you change this? Why don't you improve the marketing this way? So gradually over like a 5-6 year period, I went through every single department, whether that's warehouse automation, marketing, digital, store design, brand relationships, and built up a knowledge set of every single department. And then 2 years ago, I became CEO, and we changed the business from Sports Direct, it was formerly called, to Frasers Group, because we diversified the business away from not just being sports. We thought, as we're going on this journey of improving the Sports Directs old legacy image into the new elevated image, we thought we should diversify the whole group and bought businesses such as Flannels and Frasers. We brought in the gym business, and that's why we transformed the business into Frasers Group.
What sort of scope does Frasers have in terms of the brands that it might acquire or bring into its kind of portfolio and umbrella? Is it still very much attached to sort of fashion and fitness? Is that where you see your expertise and interest lie?
So we got three pillars in our business. We have retail, we have property, and we have consumer credit. Within retail, we own brands such as like Everlast, Carrymore, Slazenger, and the three key pillars of retail which we operate in is sports, mainly being Sports Direct, premium mainly being House of Fraser and Frasers, and luxury being Flannels. So they're the key three pillars within our retail business. Property is an investment vehicle for our real estate, for our stores which we own, and warehouses, offices, etc. And then consumer credit is our like loyalty and credit program, a bit like Klarna, but we keep it internal. So we lend the consumer the money to purchase from our business.
You spoke about your early influences, and it's clear that you're very much around this experiential type thing. You understand what people want from an experience standpoint, particularly your consumers, and it's very evident that you got your finger on the pulse of what people need internally. Is with your 30,000 team of staff. How do you build and maintain a culture and just like with an organisation that big, so you maintain a really good experience for the people that work for you?
That comes back to our third value: be relevant. You know, you have to be relevant to brands. You have to understand where the consumer is. You have to understand we're living in a world where the consumer is getting ever more demanding, ever more sophisticated. With social media, they know what's happening around the world very, very quickly, instant. And if we're not relevant as a business and our people aren't relevant as a team, we become irrelevant. And as soon as we become irrelevant, we can't fulfill our vision, which is to elevate the lives of the many with the world's best brands and experience, because we don't really understand what them brands want and what the consumers want. So it's all about making sure that we live our true values and being relevant, whether that's being into fitness and actually really understanding what that fitness consumer wants, what the new up-and-coming brands are, what the new events are, what's taking place around the world, what the gym concepts need to be, what the product the different product innovations are, so you can actually speak the language with the brand and give the brands their confidence, the confidence that you can represent their brand to the end consumer. And you also need to understand what that end consumer is seeing and talking about to make sure we're positioning ourselves in the right way. And that's a really, really important part of our group, is making sure that we are relevant both to consumers and to our brand partners so that we can service them.
Yeah, that's such a good point. So you and your team, as well as I guess from digital marketing and all those kind of things, you can stay culturally relevant and be in the right places. But is that part of your strategy with the brands that you work with, the events that you want to be seen at, even yourself personally? Is that part of the kind of strategy, or is that just kind of happening through a shared interest and alignment with, I guess, internal culture of the brand and also what's culturally relevant external?
Yeah, I think we said this when we did our talk a few back in January. You have to be obsessed with what you want to do, and you have to genuinely be interested. I think the first thing for anybody, any person, any goal set, do you genuinely want this? Are you genuinely interested in these sectors? And if you don't wake up every day and feel inspired or feel motivated to go to work, then you really shouldn't be in that industry or that sector. I am genuinely interested in sport, premium, fashion, and I encourage all the people who work with me and the team and within our company to be relevant and actually be interested in what they do, because it makes life a hell of a lot easier if you wake up every day and don't see it going to work. You see it as going to fulfill a vision.
Yeah, I've obviously been to Flanders a few times now. I've been lucky enough to go up the various stages of the office space and even to the top floor where you guys have your kind of shared eating area and what have you. And you can see that like it's a very aspirational and inspiring place to go and work, and that's just at that office there in London. And you can see that you get the rub of the people around you. Everyone kind of is thinking the same, and it's like I say, you get this rub. You can kind of feel it in the air. How do you approach leadership of those people so that you can maintain? Because when I sit talking to you, like I say, you can see the emotion and the passion, and you'd see that you're someone I'd want to follow. I'm in line with that. I'm going to come on that journey with you. What's your approach to leadership? Because you're not obviously able to speak to 30,000 people on a regular basis. So how do you maintain that kind of trickle-down effect from the top down?
I think it's just doing what you say you're going to do. You have to build trust, and trust is built quickly by delivery of examples. So, like I said before, you have to deliver and you have to celebrate the wins. Talk is cheap. Talking strategies and big presentations is cheap. It's that constant delivery. We have once a quarter, I have a CEO session, so people from the shop floor, from the warehouse, internationally, they all fly over. We have a breakfast meeting, and I just say, talk to me, tell me what's happening. I make sure that all of that's just one initiative. So we listen to all their feedback, what we should be changing, are we doing what we say we're going to do? We have Retail Reconnect. I make sure that everybody from the head office works in stores or the gyms or the warehouse at least 2 days a year to stay relevant, stay up to speed. You don't get into living in ivory towers. I even do it. So I go to the store, I work there 2 days in the shop floor, on the tills or in the stock room.
Seriously?
Yeah, to make sure that you understand. It's easy to take anything as theory. You have to show that you actually care, you listen, and actually what have you done? What actions have you taken away from that 2 days? So I expect reports of, okay, this has happened. The stores get cages of product every day, but they don't know what products are actually going to get in the cage. So we then build a report. We change the report so that actually the stores know what's coming the day before it actually arrives. So then they can build the workforce, what's required to then do them deliveries into the store. So it's just things like that constant feedback loop, and then constantly then saying, we did this, we came to the stores, we listened to what you had to say, and we actioned it, and we did this. It makes people believe and buy into the overall strategy of the group. If there's these massive disconnects, no communication, everything's overcomplicated, big presentation, no one sees any tangible gains, it's finished. It's like your industry. If you're training someone and you've got them on an 8-week program and they don't see any tangible gains, how are you going to inspire them that what you're saying is actually working? It's just the same. It's just, I like to break things down into super simple examples, and that's just one simple example. You are a personal trainer, they've signed up to an 8-week program. What do they expect? They expect to see improvement. If they don't see improvement, they're not going to follow you or believe in you if they're doing exactly what you say.
Yeah, I mean, for many founders or CEOs, right, that the ability to, particularly in smaller businesses where you're quite close to maybe some of your employees, the ability to take some of that feedback, obviously constructive, but take that feedback or go and see some inefficiencies can sometimes be, a bitter pill to swallow or hard to sort of, take because you think you have all the answers.
You've got to own it though.
Yeah, but I mean, completely, it brings it back to the values, right? You're happy to go and be on the shop floor and all for the better of the team. And I think that's a really powerful message. In with regards to the team, how do you identify, keep, and retain the best talent within your business?
It's as simple as just rewarding them for the work they're doing. Everyone's job is to come in and do what they are asked to do, but the real performers are the people who come in and do more than they're asked to do, and they're the people you need to really reward and make sure that they come and climb up the chain of the business. And that's really the people I'm looking to try and elevate their roles. I don't mind about age or experience. I care about results. I'm 34 years old, as you said, so I'm one of the youngest CEOs in the FTSE, well, the youngest CEO in the FTSE 250. And he's come through delivery. He's not come through experience. He's come through delivering on what I say I'm going to do and more. And that's really what I look for in all of the team around me.
Yeah, I just want to go back to that previous bit where you said you're in the shops 2 days or whatever you said there. It brings me back to Frasers Festival, and I can't remember who it was, but you had I think you had the founder of Under Armour on the stage, you had the CEO of Adidas. One of them said that when they came into the business, or they'd exited from CEO and come back in as CEO, they messaged, I think they gave everyone in the company their personal phone number. Yeah.
He left Puma, and then he joined Adidas as CEO, and his first town hall or meeting, he gave the whole business his phone number. Said, look, I'm accessible. Call me with any of the ideas or problems. I'm here to listen, and we're here to make change, and we're here to make a difference and make stuff happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was mind blown when I heard that, but I guess
and he's a lot bigger. That's a lot bigger than Frasers Group.
Yeah. I guess that's sometimes what it takes to be one of the most recognizable brands in the world, and I think we can all. I mean, in practice, that's a lot easier for someone like myself to put into operation. But it's great to see just how some of these guys that obviously are on a pedestal that have built and been part of some of the biggest brands in the world, how they still operate very much, take into consideration feedback from every one of the people that works in that company, because whether it's the person selling the shoes on the shop floor or whether it's one of their leadership team, those touch points with the customers are what makes a brand what it is.
Exactly.
In terms of, so let's go down the track of Bjorn and the other guys you had on that stage. How have you been able to build these relationships with some of the biggest brands in the world?
I don't want to come across as over repetitive, but I like to keep things very simple, and I try and have a framework of how I operate, and it's just by delivering. It's by doing what you say you're going to do. You have to wake up every day and you set yourself these targets and these goals, and you set yourselves an agreement, and or you say to a brand that I'm going to do this, and when you constantly do it and you constantly deliver, that trust is built, and it's built very, very quick. And that's really what has happened with the major sports brands, luxury brands. They believe that when I say I'm going to do something, I will do it, and that's how the trust and the relationship's been built.
I don't think there's any negative connotations to you repeating that message over and over again, because I think it's so powerful, and the fact it's so incredibly simple, I think, is what makes it as powerful as it is, because it's like anything, right? You use the reference of personal training. It's all very simple how to get stronger and how to lose weight and how to do those things, but it's the practice. In practice, it's difficult, and people need to be constantly reminded. And for people that are listening that are, have that entrepreneurial spirit, young business owners or getting into that world or growing teams or trying to collaborate with other businesses and brands, I think it's very important to remember that results matter, and you get noticed by delivering what you say you're going to do. Some of those big brands that you've had, I heard you talk about at Fraser Festival that you've gone out and spent time with those guys at their homes. Is there anything that you've learnt from them that's kind of passed down from building brands that are potentially bigger than what you're currently in control of? And is there any differences, any things that you've caught the rub from?
Yeah, I think there's loads you can learn. There's some that group of people who are on stage represented around 170 billion of turnover. So you think about the amount of business they do across the globe. They're some of the biggest leaders in the industry, from Kevin Plank, who founded the brand out of his grandma's basement, selling underlayers, to Bjorn, who's the CEO of Adidas, who's come in and revived the brand in such a short space of time. 2 years, it's gone from out of fashion to like the most fashionable sports brand. You then got CEO of Daniel Grieder from Hugo Boss, who's gone and taken a brand which got 100 years of heritage and made it super relevant, sponsoring people like Berrettini at the tennis, to Aston Martin at the F1, and made that brand super relevant at different levels within sport, within premium, within luxury, and really built out that brand. And I think the constant, what they the leaders I'm inspired of, they set big goals, they set big dreams, and they're not afraid to fail, and they make decisions quick. I think the leaders who deliberate, want to hold hands making decisions, they're not the leaders I want to follow. I want to follow leaders who make decisions quick and set big goals and aren't afraid to fail, and aren't afraid to change incrementally direction either side, as long as the consistent message is throughout and achieving the overall message to the companies or partners.
You say they aren't afraid to fail, because the question I wanted to sort of pose off the back of that was, what's the attitude to risk that you all kind of share?
I think our attitude to risk is we want to think without limits, is back to our values, but we're not afraid to get it wrong. And if we do get it wrong, own that you got it wrong, put your hand up. I make loads of mistakes, but we correct them mistakes. You've got to learn from them. You should, wise man always learns by another man's mistakes, but we also make our own mistakes, but you've got to learn from them mistakes. You can't be a serial offender at the same thing. That's not okay. You need to learn from the mistakes you've made, but don't be afraid of making them in the first place.
We've touched on Frasers Festival, and people that follow me or follow the channel will know I shared a few kind of clips of Frasers Festival. I genuinely couldn't believe what I was walking into when I saw it. It literally was the epitome of a festival. So for the listeners, you walk in, and there was everyone was encouraged to take on this. Was it called the
Fearless Challenge?
The Fearless Challenge, which was effectively a 5K or 10K Tough Mudder, was it?
I think it's like 6K Tough Mudder.
Yeah, ran by a bunch of Marines. I mean, it was an incredible production. You get your chip timer like you would at High Rocks. There was changing rooms. I mean, it was amazing. You had all these food vendors, all different activations from some of the biggest brands as well. Is that something that you brought into the company? And again, I suppose it goes back to that thinking without limits of how do we celebrate success?
Yeah, I brought that in 2 years ago was the first one, 2022. And I brought that in when we announced our vision. So I was in the CEO role for maybe 2 months before I brought that in. And the idea was to reveal what the first Frasers Festival was to reveal our vision to our brand partners, to our top employees. And effectively, it's our top 5% of workforce around the world. So people flew in from, I think, as far as Malaysia to come to the event. And then we have our top brand partners and top service providers, whether that's accountants, investors, banks, etc., all coming together to share one day's experience. And that vision was building the planet's most admired and compelling brand ecosystem. And then 2 years on, I wanted to share with people, look at what we did 2 years ago. That was amazing. It was the best thing the company had seen 2 years ago. We doubled it in 2 years. We made it so much better. We had 100 brands in participation. We had 30 brand activations from Nike, Adidas, Hugo Boss brought a air balloon, Under Armour, Puma. We had a premium and luxury tent with Creed, Represent, Tommy Hilfiger, GHD. We had all relevant food vendors, so back to that being relevant. We had the fitness component in there, the Fearless Challenge, which was to get everybody active, all being part of a team, all one vision. We're all going to get through this together, no matter what the fitness appetite or the fitness levels of the whole 2,000 people that did it. It was all about we'll get through this together like a team. And then we had a big presentations, panel talks with the likes of Bjorn, Under Armour, Nike, Daniel Guida from Hugo Boss, CEO of On Running, Mark Mara, talking about their experiences with not only with Frasers Group but the industry and how we've shaped the industry. So again, just giving all these little proof points back towards that vision that all the work we're doing is being recognised by the brand partners, being recognised by me, and this is a day to celebrate all of these incremental wins we've had over the last 2 years, so that when we start talking about next year's goals, people can remember, actually, look at how far we've come in 2 years already. This big vision is not unattainable. We just got to keep following the path we're on, and we will get there.
Yeah, I referenced it. It was mind-blowing, and you talk about inspiring and vision. I brought it back to my team, and I was like, you wouldn't actually. I showed them some of the videos and footage, and even for someone like me going to that, but you're like, okay, this is obviously a million miles away, but what can be achieved. I'm looking forward to see what you do over the next couple of years. Going back to Frasers Fearless, the run. Obviously, there's this encouragement of fitness into the workforce, within Frasers Group, and we've referenced it. Your own experience within High Rocks and fitness as a child. What's the impact that you've seen that have on your employees from trying to bake in any opportunities to support High Rocks, for example, with the Sports Direct High Rocks or the Fearless Frasers Challenge at the run, even company WhatsApp groups that I know some of you have got to encourage getting to the gym, the involvement with Everlast Gyms, plans to roll out another 50 sites. It's clearly baked into the DNA of the brand. What's the impact you've seen that have on a day-to-day scale of your team?
So when we did the first Frasers Fit, when I announced the company vision 2 years ago, Frasers Festival 2 years ago, I think we only had like 45% participation in the Fearless Challenge, the Tough Mudder. So I was like, this is not acceptable. We're meant to be a sports company. We have Sports Direct. We're rooted in sport. All we do is speak to sports brands all day. We have 55 gyms around the country. I expect 100% people, unless you're injured, so let's call it 98%, to everyone should be doing it because we all need to be relevant because we work at a sports company, and therefore we started Frasers Fit. So that was really the road to the next Frasers Festival 2 years on. So I set it up with our gym company, Everlast Gyms. I said, look, we need to build a platform which can engage with all of our 30,000 employees. It should be accessible to everyone, free programs, meal plans, how-tos, coaching, gym access, and I want to get the company fit. So we started on that journey about 18 months ago. I think we've got over 6,000 people now, so over 20% of the workforce, because you've got some temporary staff, etc. Now on Frasers Fit, following programs. They all go to run clubs together, they enter marathons together. We allocate high rock spaces to teams. We have Frasers Fit on Wednesdays, where different if you live near a gym, we put on gym classes just for Frasers Group employees. So we're really trying to let people, get people fit, get them inspired by fitness, and get them into the mindset of consistency will get you fitter. Consistency will deliver your goals. So set yourself them goals, whether it's a half marathon, start going to the gym every day, follow the program, and you will be surprised at how far you can go on this journey, which then should help translate into everyday life, into the work life of setting these goals and following the consistent path of what we expect, and you will start to deliver against them goals. So it's getting into that mindset of getting people consistent with their approach to life, both in fitness and the workplace and the general life.
I think that's super important, right? When you've got these values and this kind of way of doing things, but you actually giving people the resource and the access to be able to do it. Because I think a lot of companies, talk about these things, but there's still too many barriers, particularly with fitness. So people find going to the gym, it's a big commitment. It's somewhat intimidating. Getting started can sometimes be the biggest barrier. But when you're pulling down all those barriers, make it super accessible for your team, and training programs, nutrition, how-tos, access to the gyms, designated classes, you've almost made it. It's almost impossible to fail, right? So, and
then I try and lead by example. So my social's very much focused about my goals. I'll be very open. Missed this goal, didn't hit this one. Going to try and do this now. Whether it's HIIT times, whether it's half marathon, I'm very out there with making sure I'm accountable to that as well, to try and lead by example. So I'm a massive believer in fitness. I'm a massive believer. Fitness is like my therapy. It's my time in a morning to just think. And it's my time, which is constant. It never changes every day. It's the same every day, no matter where I am in the world. I do an hour to an hour and a half, depending on what I'm doing, and make sure I hit that every time. Consistent routine, consistent against my plan of what I'm trying to achieve. And I just think it massively helps my mindset, both body and mind, really, and how that then translates into workplace.
The next sort of section I want to move on to your sort of personal relationship with health and fitness. I think more recently, when I met you, HIIT was very much on the scene. So you competed in your first doubles HIIT. We're going back some time now, and you've more recently done the world champs and things. But pre-HIIT, when that was your competitive outlet, you obviously referenced training an hour to an hour and a half every day. What were you kind of focusing on? What were those goals with your fitness that were the key moments within your calendar that were competitive, or where you got a chance to show your fitness? Was there anything?
What, before HIIT?
Before HIIT was on the scene.
Yeah, so I've done marathons. I've done boxing. So I've had 3 boxing fights. I've played rugby, cross country. I've pretty much done everything there is to do. But as I got more and more busier with work, it became a bit more, let's say, fluid, less goal. We had goals in the gym, but I like the true accountability is to compete. If you've not got that competition, yeah, you can hit some times in the gym or weights in the gym, what you want to try and achieve, whether it's 5K or how many pull-ups you can do, whatever that is, yeah. But really performing on a stage where you actually, you're called out, whether you've actually delivered what you want to deliver. And for me, it's not proven to anyone else, proven to myself. I've got a very busy life. I want to be able to manage a balance between life, fitness, family, work, and I want to do what I say I'm going to do to myself to keep myself accountable. So that's why HIIT was such a good target for me, such a good goal for me, because it takes about an hour and a half a day. There's these big events. It's the same every time, so it's measurable. I can then set my goals of where I want to be on the next HIIT or future HIITs, and I can track the progress against that. So that's really why I moved from just doing, let's call it, gym targets to HIIT.
Yeah, I want to come on to HIIT in a little bit more detail, but going back a step on just you personally, and people always ask me around routine, what do you eat, all that kind of stuff, and it really doesn't matter, right? Because everyone's context is different, whether they've got what they do for work, their preferences, their goals, what other commitments they've got, responsibilities with kids and other things, right? But for you, you've referenced an hour and a half. What does your kind of routine around training and work look like on a Monday to Friday or even at the weekends?
So work, I could be travelling anywhere, but the one thing what's consistent is the training. I'll do. So
you when you're travelling, are you picking a place where you know there's going to be a gym? Is that on the?
I'll move the routine round. It's because obviously with HIIT you have to do a lot of running as well, so you can run anywhere. You know, there's always a hotel gym what's got a running machine, and we all know hotel gyms can be average at best sometimes. So I'll just move the routines around to what I have effectively 3 to 4 running sessions a week and 3 to 4 weight sessions a week. So I'll make sure that depending where I am in the world, I'll just flex the program. So actually, I'm going to have to do 2 back-to-back running days now, actually, because I'm going to be in this hotel and the gym equipment's not very good. And then I'll move the weight sessions to another day. But I try and keep it as simple as that, really.
Do you skip sessions at all?
No. Never.
I love that.
Never. I might take the intensity down, but I'll never skip.
What's your sort of routine around nutrition? You're obviously in fantastic shape. You perform well. Is there anything you're constantly thinking about?
No, really. Just I don't want nutrition to rule my life. You know, I go out for dinners a lot. I go out for lunches, for work. So alcohol, I'll try and stay away from as much as possible. So I'll have maybe at best one drink a week, but it used to be a lot more. And in reality, my food, I just kind of live a nice balance of food. I have guidelines of what I'll eat and what I won't eat, but I don't like weigh anything or do anything like that. I've just not got time. And I could be in a restaurant 3 or 4 times a week where I'm governed by what they're serving. So reality is I'm very, very fluid with what I eat. I've just got kind of open guidelines.
That's brilliant. So let's get into high rocks. Let's start with, what's your high rocks time? It's always the first question to ask.
My last one or my best one?
Your best one.
Best one is 54 minutes.
It's very quick. Men's doubles, right?
Men's doubles,
pro weights.
Pro weights, yeah.
Very quick. Well, last one was at the World Champs. How'd you get on?
Last one, I came 8th at the World Champs in my age group, and I think it's 13th or 14th overall.
Yeah, that's serious.
Yeah.
What is it you like so much about it? Obviously, the competition is a big part of it, right? Being able to achieve a time, have a goal. I think the experience of high rocks is fantastic. You know, you get a chance to travel as well. But what is it that keeps you going back for more?
I like shocking people. I like people going, oh, you've got all this work to do, and you got the family, and you're traveling around the world, and you can still hit them times. I think that makes things more believable when you say you're going to do things, when you can shock people with results which they don't expect. And that's what I like doing. So the moment I can't keep beating my times, that's when I look to do something else.
It's not necessarily proving people wrong, but does that come, that kind of desire to shock people, does that come from anything, any previous experiences or situations where you've kind of built that from?
I love proving people wrong. So that's
why.
Yeah.
Has there been a situation where people have doubted your ability?
I think no. I just like the reaction. I like the game. You know what I do? It's shock myself as well. I think there's an underlying thing there where I like to set these goals for myself and think, actually, you're doubting yourself. I'm not going to actually have enough time to do it. I put myself out there to do it, and then you over exceed. So if I can shock myself, I'm pretty much going to shock other people as well.
Yeah. How does that routine around fitness training, how's it impacted your working life as well?
Competing with high rocks has been the best thing I've done in the last 2 to 3 years. But the last thing I did, what was equally as good as this, was when I took emails off my mobile phone. So that was in...
so you don't have emails on your mobile phone?
No email on my phone.
That is a gangster move.
Don't have any emails on my phone. So I don't know many people who don't have emails on the phone, but don't try and email me because I
So is there designated times throughout the day where you're gonna check emails?
Yeah.
Outside of that,
I don't have any meetings before 10 o'clock in the morning. So I just do my emails when I'm freshest, because when you write an email, that lasts forever. That decision's tangible. That communication's tangible. And I just think it's important to be in the right frame of mind when you want to write emails, because people can refer back to emails a lot from, you said this here. And I believe that you should be in the best possible space of your mind when you want to start putting things down, which last forever.
Yeah, that's a nugget. I'm going to tell the team, no emails on my phone anymore. Have you built this ability to manage time, or is it a byproduct of creating that routine and discipline around non-negotiables, training, no emails before, so no emails on your phone, emails before 10 a.m. Is that something that's played into sort of time management? You're obviously someone who's got so much on, right, with your own fitness ambition and running a company.
Yeah.
Has that been built, or is it something you just naturally had?
No, I built it over, and it's like I built it over probably 5 years, I would say. beforehand it was all over the place. Just say yes to any meeting, yes to any time. You know, it's a bit like Bravo. You know, I can look at how many hours I can work, but you can end up becoming a busy fool. You've got to make, when you're in my position, you have to make few very good decisions, and you have to move the needle with what you do. And I think when you can get caught up in being a busy fool, so I like to be very selective on what I do, meetings-wise, when I do them. I have my designated days when I'll do external meetings, when I'll do internal meetings. I have my time slot every day for training, 6 till 8, showers, etc. I have my time for emails, 8:30, 8 till 10. I have my first meeting time. So it's kind of a guiding principles of how I like to live my life. I take my kids to school every Friday, so people know not to really communicate with me on a Friday morning until a certain time. I have my times when my preferred days to travel. So if I'm going to travel abroad, I have preferred days I want to travel. I have my preferred months to travel. So I have kind of guiding principle. I analyse my diary and where I've been most effective, where I've been a busy fool, and try and improve on diary management. Why did I do that meeting? Could have I assigned it to someone else? Could I delegate that? Why have I done it? That type of thing. And I think it's constantly just adjusting yourself towards a more efficient output.
What do you?
I analyse everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, right? But how do you? Because it's that level of detail that could be the unlock for people. How do you determine what days you prefer to travel on? Is that just because of the other things that are maybe priorities, fitness, taking the kids to school, that kind of thing, or is there something else that's going on there that you like to travel?
No, I like Mondays to be very consistent, so I like to catch up with all the internal teams on Mondays. I like to understand what's going off, there are any issues over the weekend, trade from the previous week. Tuesdays is more like divisional focus, so focusing on the sports business and the fashion business, and making sure what's happening with brands. Do I need to speak to anyone? Do I need to intervene? Do I need to escalate? Then just speaking to the teams. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays then becomes a little bit more fluid.
Okay. It sounds like time management's been pretty well optimized, right? And you've got that 6 to 8 hour 6 to 8 window in the morning to train, and your HIIT time's obviously coming down. What happens when that time available to train no longer can chip away at that HIIT time? How do you, someone who's competitive, right? How do you go to that next level? Or is that, given the circumstances, within the context of what you need to try and achieve, is that the level that you can hit?
Well, it comes back to being realistic. You know, you're training for an ultramarathon. You know, I can't. You know, I ain't got the time. I've not got 3 hours, 4 hours to go on a run. So it comes back to when you look at, you ask yourself, who do you want to be? What's reality of what you can be? And do you want to be that person? And have you got the time to actually execute against that, being that person? And HIIT really fits into a good bracket for me, because an hour to an hour and a half, no zone 2 run is going to be over an hour and a half, something like a HIIT. It's 55 minutes of work. So it fits into my sphere of what's realistic, and I can start to work against that. I'm only really in my first year of doing HIIT. My first time I ever got one open weights was an hour and 2 minutes a year ago, and jumping to pro weights to go down to 54 minutes in a year has been a big jump, but I think I can get down to 50 minutes. What
is it you think that you're lacking, or you need to work on?
Run speed. And it's just getting them zone 2 runs in and a bit more. I've got good VO2, and I've got good strength. I just need to get the run speeds up a little bit.
Do you know what your VO2 max is?
67.
Jeez,
yeah.
Very good. Shout out your partner Josh as well. He's a very fit bloke. We should give him a bit of an acknowledgement.
He's really the reason why I get to 54.
I mean, getting down to 50 minutes.
He's the workhorse. I'm the manager. I manage him. He'd be still running around the track now if it wasn't for me. He asks me every time we run in, is it time to run in? No, we've only just started running, Josh. I'll tell you when to run in, and I'll tell you when to run out. I'll be the captain, you do the running.
I can't wait to see you chip away 4 minutes off your time. Is there races that you've highlighted that you're gonna attack over the next 12 months?
Yeah, pretty much the UK ones.
Okay.
I try and do one. I did Copenhagen last year, but pretty much the UK ones, and just chip away at them.
You referenced taking the kids to school on a Friday. This is something that's very important to me, because I'm still 3 kids, still trying to find the balance of growing a company, managing a team, but also dedicating time to being a parent. And I think there'll be a lot of people listening in a similar stage of life. Is there any non-negotiables outside of taking them to school, or anything that you think about because obviously being CEO of a company, there's probably occasions that you're going to have to miss. Is there ways in which you can manage those, even just psychologically overcoming it? Is there other things that you're putting in place?
No, like this year, I went to all the sports days. I went to the end of year plays, all that type of stuff. So I make sure that, because 18 years really is finished, and really my kids are 6 and 7. So in the next 10 years, that's all finished. I've only got 10 years of doing these 1, 2, 3 days a year. I'm not going to miss it. So I make sure that is a non-negotiable for me, to make sure I'm there for them events. And then that 1 day a week at school, it's only 1 day. I drop them off, go to the coffee shop beforehand, and I won't miss that day unless there's something which I'm travelling and I'll try and then do it on the Thursday instead or something like that.
What do you do with your downtime? Do you have downtime?
It's really fitness, family, and Frasers Group. They're my 3 Fs, and there's not really anything else in that. Yeah, most of my friends work for Frasers Group, so hang out with them, go to a lot of sports events, but it's usually with brands or at work. So there's not really much time time free out of them three areas. It's really gets down to very rare occasions.
It's a very unique situation. I mean, we're in a very similar situation, very different businesses, I might add, but similar situation that, like, my brother, sister, and very close friends work within the business. And I do think it's a competitive advantage. Sometimes can obviously be to a detriment, but where you can sort of marry up this environment where you're constantly, socializing, but also, working damn hard for this big vision and growing a company. I've actually been around some of the guys within your business that I know you've grown up with and they've got strong relationships with, and you can see that kind of family unit, albeit you're a huge organisation, is still so strong.
Yeah.
What's your sort of, have you got any routine around this work sprints and then going away? Did you take breaks away from the business?
I take quite a lot of breaks. Lot of breaks. I'll do probably 4 weeks a year where and one is like 10 days over Christmas between New Year's Christmas Eve and like the 2nd, 3rd of Jan. That's pretty a low time for us. Like retail, you can't really make any changes from my position. That the product's been bought. It's just execution roles, making sure the stock's in the stores, etc. Our financial results, half year's done. The brands are all away on holiday. There's no transactions happening in terms of real estate. So really that's a good window for me. And then probably the last couple of weeks of August. Our financial year end is in July. So that's written off July this year every year, because you're always working with the auditors to make sure your accounts are all healthy, ready for end of July results. And then this year we've got the Olympics. I'm with a lot of the brands for the first 2 to 3 weeks of August, and then I'll go away at the end of August, and I'll be phones down as much as I can be. People can always call me if there's an emergency, but people generally only call me if it's an emergency.
And on that kind of idea of, I guess, recovery or restoration, what's your routine around? Do you have anything with sleep?
I have one of these things.
What is that? An
Oura ring.
Yeah.
So I track that. I'm obviously, as you can see, analyse everything. I analyse every workout, every sleep, all my steps. I get probably 6.5 hours of sleep a night. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. That's okay for me.
Yeah, good. I think I've quizzed you with everything that I can. I've extracted all the knowledge that I could get out of you, Mike. Mate, like I said, from the very first moment that I got a chance to meet you and sit on stage, I could tell that you're someone who's incredibly inspirational. And I think a born leader and a born competitor, which I think for people growing companies, I think that's a fantastic traits to have. But I think the take-home message from me was big vision, and when you say you're going to do something, make sure you can execute on it, or make sure you do execute on it. So thanks very much for coming on the podcast, mate.
I would end it with have a vision, set goals, keep it simple, and be consistent. They're the 4 takeaways I would say. I would advise anyone to try and follow in their life. 4 simple principles to try and break down.
That's a mic drop moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.